Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is great. Thank you for coming out. I guess people think school board elections are important. My name is Paul Keeley. I'm with the Newark Partnership. Newark Partnership is the lead sponsor here with our additional partners, the Senior Center, who provided the facility, and the League of Women Voters. Thanks so much for coming out. This is really important. I am the chair of the Civic Engagement Committee, and this is Civic Engagement. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Susan Mitchell from the League of Women Voters, who's going to tell us a little bit about how this is going to work. By the way, we're being videotaped, and we're going to send everybody that signed in a link to the videotape. It's also being live streamed, so you can watch it again and again and share it with your friends.
So on behalf of the Newcastle County League of Women Voters, I also would like to welcome you here this evening. I want to thank you for those of you who registered ahead of time and you sent some questions in online. I think we've got you covered. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to introduce herself to you. She will also have 2 minutes to respond to each question. We will alternate the candidates as they receive questions. So for example, if we start out with Ms. Campbell, the next question will start with Shannon.
Just say Shannon. That's easier.
Okay, thanks. And then there will be 1 minute for a closing statement. I think it says 2 minutes. We'll see where we are, okay? They may only use notes for their introductory statement and their closing statement, not to respond to questions, but they do have notepads available that they can jot some things down on. You can remain seated. If you want to come up to the podium, that's up to you. We want everybody to be comfortable. Candidates must refrain from personal attacks and must not interrupt each other. Any questions submitted which contain personal attacks, either on the candidates or anyone else related to the Christina School Board, will not be presented. Candidates and their supporters may wear campaign buttons. We can kind of get over that. There is some campaign literature and items over on the side table for both candidates if you'd like to stop by. We took care of press releases, and I want to thank both of you for promoting this forum on your social media and your websites. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you who shared the information with your friends and neighbors. Both the League and the Newark Partnership are nonpartisan 501c3 sponsors of this, along with, thank you very much to the Newark Senior Center for providing the space for us. So your candidates for Christina School Board are Janine Campbell and Shannon Troncoso. I would now like to introduce your moderator for this evening. And let me just tell you a little bit about Dr. Powell has 3 kids in this school district, in Christina School District. She was on the Christina School Board. As a matter of fact, she was president of the Christina School Board. And could I just see a raise of hands, please? In this audience, how many current or former school board members are in the audience? Oh, I'm not in the audience. Okay. All right. So she will be our moderator this evening, and I'm going to turn this over to her, and we can get started right away. Okay with you? Okay, ready.
Okay, candidates. First question. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the audience. Please tell us your background, including your past or present relationship with the Christina School District, and why you chose to run. You may have written notes. And can I have a confirmation of which candidate is starting us off from the...
We did a coin toss. We did do a coin toss earlier in the week. We did. And we start with Shannon.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, last night I looked over the probably 20 openings that I had written for tonight. And as anybody that knows me knows, I've never followed a script in life. My name is Shannon Troncoso. I live in Trinity vicinity. with this amazing kid over there and her younger sibling. I moved to Delaware 4 years ago to attend Widener Delaware Law School, and I say I saved the best for last. I grew up in rural Indiana, where dropping out of school was a rite of passage. My grandmother dropped out of school, my mother dropped out of school, and all of my aunts and uncles dropped out of school. But my mother had mental health issues and addiction. She was not capable of being a mother. Lucky for me, her 15-year-old sister, Lila, filled in the gap. Lila had also quit school, but she had a reason. She had never learned how to read. But she would take me underneath the trailer where we lived, and she would read to me little golden books that she had saved up money to buy. The story would always vary. I never paid attention, but it was varied. But it planted in me the importance of stories and education. My Uncle Gary went to boys' school. It's the first time I ever heard the term school. As we all know, it was juvenile detention. His brother Monty committed suicide because he missed an appointment with his probation officer, and he was afraid he was going to go back to prison. I used to be ashamed of my childhood. My younger self would be amazed that I'm standing here in front of all of you and telling you my life story. What I realize is...
That's time, thank you.
Catch me after.
Ms. Campbell.
Yes, hello everyone. Oh, I'm not on. Oh, it's green. It's on. Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Janine Campbell. I am a mother of 2 beautiful children. I am a community advocate, a mentor, a former substitute teacher who worked in the Christina schools, a former PTA treasurer, PTO vice president. In 2021, I founded One Purpose Food Pantry. This is a nonprofit that provides nutritious food to families in Newcastle County and in the city of Wilmington. I had the pleasure of partnering with some of the social workers and principals in the Christina School District to provide food and resources to their families. I also teach a diabetes support program for children and their families who are at risk of or diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And I serve as the health educational chair for the Delaware PTA. I'm running for the Christina School Board because I've seen firsthand the challenges our students, families, and staff face, both as a former substitute teacher and as a parent navigating the public school system with limited resources and support. I'm deeply rooted in this community, and I am committed to improving student outcomes for all students. So because of this, I decided that I wanted to do more, and in order to do that, I needed a seat at the table. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. What are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member? What additional roles and responsibilities does the board president hold? And for this, we'll start with Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. So the roles and responsibilities, the school board represents the values and the vision of the community members as a whole. The school board is to govern and oversee the school districts. The school board writes policies that are inclusive. The school board also hires and evaluates the superintendent and does budget oversight.
Do you want to add what additional roles and responsibilities does the board president hold?
Yes, the board president leads the meetings. He also signs documents on behalf of the board. The board president, he makes sure that the board make sure that the board are applying to the different laws and standards. And he also he also forms the committees, put people on the committees, the people in charge of the committees. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Troncoso, same question. Roles and responsibilities of a school board member, and what additional roles and responsibilities does the board president hold?
So in my day life, I'm continuing the story, right? In my day life, I'm an attorney. And an attorney, the client comes with a problem, with the facts, and they tell me what the objective is, and I find a way to go there. The same is very similar for a school board. We're the one that sets the visions and the values of the community, and the superintendent is the one that drives the bus. The board president starts and closes the meetings, offers motions, is a spokesperson. I believe that's it.
Okay, thank you. How do you differentiate the role of a board member from that of the superintendent? Give an example of something that is a board member's duty and something that is the superintendent's duty. Ms. Troncoso.
So as I said, the board sets the vision and the values for the community, and the superintendent is the one that is responsible for gathering the data, the student data, determining the curriculum, and again, driving the bus. It's just the board that checks in, does periodic progress, supports the superintendent, but it's ultimately the superintendent that determines. We don't micromanage, we just support.
Ms. Campbell.
So the board set the goals and the superintendent implement the resources and the activities to make sure that student outcomes happen. The board also, again, represents the vision and the values of the community. Thank you.
What should be best practices for board members when there is a disagreement with the superintendent or administration? Even though you may have somewhat different ideas, once discussed and settled, will you support the direction the superintendent administration presents? Ms. Campbell.
Best practices would be to listen effectively to what the other person has to say, to not overpower or overtalk, to make sure that you have the students' best interests at hand, even in the middle of a disagreement. Also, sometimes we have to agree to disagree so that we can keep moving forward. Thank you.
And once discussed and settled, will you support the direction the superintendent and administration present? Ms. Campbell, you have a little bit more time.
Oh, I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Once discussed and settled, will you support the direction the superintendent and administration present?
As long as it brings positive student outcomes, yes.
Okay. Ms. Troncoso, same question.
So I believe in finding consensus. We all come from different places with different thoughts, different backgrounds, different influences. But ultimately, we're all adults. As all of you here know that have sat on the board, It's a hard position. It's an unpaid position. It's a work of the heart. I will come to it with respect for someone's opinion, and we can find consensus, and even if we can't, we will always be respectful. I will abide by the board president's decision. And was it the president or the superintendent?
Once discussed and settled, will you support the direction the superintendent or administration presents?
Absolutely. As we all know, we've been through a lot in order to get a new superintendent here at Christina. I'm very excited for the opportunity to work with Dr. Joyner and to support her and to see her have her moment to shine.
What role do you have in working with elected officials and advocating on a state, county, and city level? Mr. Nkoso.
I wouldn't necessarily say that the role is mandatory. However, I've never seen a problem that I didn't want to jump in and try to fix. There's a lot of problems here, and there's a lot of passion for education, and that includes our legislators. So I plan to understand and get to know each of them and be an advocate for Christina School District.
And Ms. Campbell.
Yes. So I plan to advocate for the school needs, to build relationships with legislators, attend council meetings, to make sure that legislators are aware of the challenges and the progress that the schools are making.
How do you see the parents' or community's role in board decision-making? Ms. Campbell.
Well, again, going back to parents in a community, we represent the values, their values and the vision. And so parents, they are part of the decision-making, so we have to make sure that their voices are being heard. Some of the things that we can do, we can have listening sessions and make sure that the community members have access. Also, the community, they should have a say in whether or not that they're truly being represented by the board. And so I believe that they have. It's all about the community. It's all about the students, as long as it all aligns to make sure that we have positive student outcomes. Thank you.
Ms. Troncoso.
Do you mind repeating?
Sure. How do you see the parents' or community's role in board decision-making?
It's impossible for the board to set the vision and the values of the community without the community's input. It's incumbent upon us as board members to engage with the community and also do community outreach. And by outreach, I mean going to the places that parents and community members are if they're not able to come to the board meeting.
How will you engage the community to support and strengthen the schools in the Christina School District? Ms. Troncoso.
I promised, as anyone that has had the opportunity to speak with me, I give you my cell phone number and I encourage you, not just today, not just for your vote, but for every day going forward. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and what you're thinking about the outcome of the students and Christina School District. I want to know how you're feeling.
And Ms. Campbell.
Can you ask the question one more time?
Yes.
Please?
How will you engage the community to support and strengthen the schools in the Christina School District?
Well, I would make sure that I'm leaving room for open communication and transparency. make sure that the community know that their voices are heard, that they're valued. And I would also be an open door to let them know that what we are here for, what the board represents. And I would hope to show each community member that I lead with honesty, integrity, and that they can hold me and the board accountable for our decisions. Thank you.
Some members of the community have expressed concerns about whether the current board can govern with the needs of children as their priority. What will you do to help rebuild the community's trust in the board and the decisions they make? Ms. Campbell.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying about being transparent. I would communicate and keep the lines of communication wide open. I will also support them to make sure that they have a place in the room. I would also continue to engage in the community, something that I already do. They will see me in schools. They will see me at community events. And I will make sure that I am approachable. And I'm there to ask questions because their kids attend these schools. And everybody has a voice. Like the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a kid.
Ms. Troncoso. Yes. Some members of the community have expressed concerns about whether the current board can govern with the needs of children as their priority. What will you do to help rebuild the community's trust in the board and the decisions they make?
I think it's really important she says some people have vocalized concern. I think probably everybody in this room is a little bit concerned about how the board has been operating or not operating and the toxicity that has been there. Children must come first. It has to be about children and not about the egos. I'm not here for ego. I'm not here for politics. I'm just here for the future and for the children and the families and the community of Christina School District.
If elected and after being sworn in, your first votes will be to elect board leadership. What qualities do you look for in those who would lead an organization like the Christina School Board? Ms. Troncoso.
The first thing I would look for is someone that is a consensus builder, someone that knows how to seek out the opinion of the other board members, that realizes that everybody brings value, someone that shows respect to the other board members, realizes that everyone has a voice and everyone's thoughts are important. I have someone in mind that I've been fortunate to get to know in this process, and the days for Christina School Board have never looked brighter.
Ms. Campbell.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. If elected and after being sworn in, your first votes will be to elect board leadership. What qualities do you look for in those who would lead an organization like the Christina School Board?
Well, I would make sure that there's someone who knows how to communicate well, somebody who is approachable, someone who believes in unity so that we can focus on student outcomes and not adult behavior. Also, someone who makes student outcomes a priority, someone who is teachable, and someone who possesses leadership skills and prioritize as well the community. Thank you.
How will you support the central administration in bolstering the delivery of the sciences, social studies, and the arts in elementary and middle schools to ensure students are provided with well-rounded content beyond ELA and math? Ms. Campbell.
Well, I would want to make sure that these subjects are being taught every day in schools because these subjects are very important. I would want to make sure there's hands-on learning, that there are projects and field trips that the students can visit, like museums, so that these experiences can impact their life. Also support teachers to make sure they have the necessary resources so they can teach these subjects effectively. Thank you.
And Ms. Troncoso.
I remember this one. I think it's important to look at whether it's social studies, music, art, STEM, all those things, especially like social studies, art, music, those things should not be considered extras. Our children, they're sponges, they like to learn, but we have to give them different means to do that. And when we engage them in social studies and music and things like that, they're acquiring critical thinking skills, but they're also having fun while they're doing it. And I think that we have to help our teachers that need the support. It's not immediately obvious how to teach social studies. I love history, but I wouldn't know how to teach. So our teachers need to be supported. And we need to make it so that our children enjoy learning again.
How do you plan to support school libraries in all CSD schools, especially those without certified library media specialists in the building? Ms. Troncoso.
Professional development. It's important that individuals have the professional development that they need in order to fill in the gaps in these spaces. There are staffing shortages, there's teacher shortages, and we have to learn how to do the best with what we have right now. And that means we develop the staff that we have. And we make libraries and education, we make it fun and important. And our teachers are important, and the libraries are important. So we have to problem solve and develop our talents.
Ms. Campbell.
I believe that certified media specialists are very important. As we all know, the literacy scores are very low. Certified media specialists, they help our students with research, they help our students with guidance, they help our students with literacy skills, and they also help teachers with learning instruction. So I believe that every school should have a certified library media specialist. Thank you.
What is your position on the restriction of books or other materials from school classrooms and libraries? Ms. Campbell.
I believe that we should have diverse books, that we need to make sure that they're age and grade appropriate. I also believe that the children should have access to books that represent different backgrounds and different cultures. This will help students engage and relate to their culture. Thank you.
Ms. Troncoso.
I'm a firm believer in surrounding children with as many books as possible. I do not believe in banning books. I believe in monitoring material, making sure it's age appropriate. I would not have read To Kill a Mockingbird to my first grader, but otherwise, I think it's important to empower our educators. They have the ability and the time to understand the books that are more current. I'm sure that people are reading a lot more than Goodnight Moon and the things that I read to my children when they were young. I think it's important to be aware of what children are learning and supporting that with different books that may add a different flavor, a flair that reinforces their interests. But in no way do I believe in restricting books.
Will you provide direct guidance to district supervisors, principals, and classroom teachers to eliminate any discussion of political affiliation, and more particularly issues of morality and sexual content apart from instruction in biology? Ms. Troncoso.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. Will you provide direct guidance to district supervisors, principals, and classroom teachers to eliminate any discussion of political affiliation, and more particularly issues of morality and sexual content apart from instruction in biology?
No. It's not my business to get into how principals and administrators, and it's not my business to get into the morality business or into, say sex, like as in gender.
Yes, it said sexual content
No.
apart from instruction in biology.
My role is to help bring to life your vision and your values for the district, not to get caught up into politics and partisanship.
Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. So we all know the role of the school board member because we already answered that question. The role of the school board member, again, is to govern. And so the day-to-day at the schools, the superintendent and the principal would do the day-to-day operationals. But I still believe that the material that is being learned or taught should be age and grade appropriate. I don't think a kindergartner or a first grader should be learning about sexual content. And so if there's a chance when we're, as a board, completing the goals, and if that happens to be in one of the goals because it's a concern of the community, then it remains that I believe that it should be age appropriate and grade appropriate for sexual content. And I think about the political aspect of it. We can learn about politics at school so that these students can learn to do their civic duties. Thank you.
What is your position on protecting trans students in our schools? Ms. Campbell.
Well, I believe that trans student and any student should not be discriminated against, that they should be seen and heard, they should be able to participate in sports and other programs, and they should come to school, and it should be a safe place for trans students, just like all students. Thank you.
And Ms. Troncoso.
So this one is really personal to me. My younger child, a couple of years ago, started questioning who they were and what their gender was. Part of the reason why I've been so involved in their schooling from the beginning was to be sure that they were safe. That will continue. I see every child as an extension of my children, and they need to be protected, both in the culture at the school, the community, the teachers, and the staff. They need to be made to know that they are just as important as anyone else. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day they're just as important as anyone else. And they need to be protected and shown that they are respected and valued.
It is likely that during your term, Christina School District will need to go out for an operating referendum, as well as a capital referendum. What are your thoughts on Delaware's school referendum process? Ms. Troncoso.
Well, my thoughts on it are not probably going to change anything, but I do not agree with the way the referendum process is. It puts us in direct odds with our community. We're all aware that the funding formula in Delaware dates back to 1940. Brown v. Board of Education was in the 1950s. We have not caught up. We have not caught up and invested in our communities in 85 years. We cannot expect the community, we cannot gouge their pockets when all of you are getting new assessments and property taxes, and it should not be a burden upon you to fund our schools. It's for the state to do.
Ms. Campbell.
I believe that if it's necessary, that I do believe the referendum should take place, but not to burden any of the families or community members. As I stated before, it takes a village. So that means that whether you have a child that attends the school or not. But my hopes are that the Christina School District would make sure that they're not in any kind of deficit, and to make sure that we're able to fund the district, and that we don't need to do a referendum. But I'm not opposed. Thank you.
It is possible that during your term, the Christina School District will be removed from Wilmington and your seat rendered obsolete if the will of the Reading Commission is approved by state legislature. What are your thoughts on redistricting Wilmington? How can an outgoing seated board member support their community during a transition? Ms. Campbell.
Well, because I have the best interest of the students, I am all for the redistricting. One of the things I question is, why do children who live in Wilmington have to drive 20 minutes to school when there's a school 10 minutes away? So I support the redistricting. And I'm sorry, what was your other question?
And how can an outgoing seated board member support their community during a transition?
Well, make sure that the community is informed and keep them engaged. Give them a place where they feel welcome and supported, that they feel like their voices can be heard, their opinions, their ideas. Just be very transparent about the process and be open and clear in communication, making sure that we're out in the communities so that no matter what, someone is representing not only the district, but also the community. Thank you.
Ms. Troncoso. Yes. It is possible that during your term, the Christina School District will be removed from Wilmington and your seat rendered obsolete if the will of the Reading Commission is approved by state legislature. What are your thoughts on redistricting Wilmington? How can an outgoing seated board member support their community during a transition?
Well, in terms of outgoing, I see that we're all running like the baton. We're just passing it off from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. The children of Wilmington, the can just keeps getting kicked down the road and kicked down the road, kicked down the road. There's children being left behind. If my position is rendered obsolete, my voice is going to travel. I'm going to still stand up for the children and the families and the community, and I'll go on to the next organization where I can vocalize and stand up for the community and for the kids that have been left behind for far too long.
House Bill 82 provides that if a school board member is not physically present in their district 75% of the days in any year-long period of that member's term, that member ceases to qualify as an inhabitant as defined by this act. What is your position on whether a board member in this situation should continue to serve? Mr. Troncoso.
Well, since we're here to do the vision and the values of the community, I cannot put your vision and your values in place if you do not have access to me. I need to be here. You need to see me. You need to engage with me. If I leave this area for, what was the?
It says not present in their district 75% of the days in any year-long period.
It's time to prioritize exactly what you want. And if you want to be on the board, then you need to be present. And actually, ultimately, it's not even about what adults want. It's about what's best for children. The law is there. It's clear. We're here to represent children's and community, and you can't represent a community from thousands of miles away.
Ms. Campbell.
So I believe that it is not, if you're going to represent the community, then you need to be in the community. And I believe it's that plain and simple. How can you hear from the community if you're not here? How can you be a part of the community if you're not here? So I actually agree with the new policy that school board members need to be living in the district. I believe it's 70% of the time.
This is 75%.
75% of the
days.
time.
If a school board member is not physically present in their district 75% of the days in any year-long period.
Yes, so I agree that you can't be effective and you can't represent the community if you're not present. Thank you.
Over the past year, the Department of Justice has been monitoring the Christina School Board and has identified multiple FOIA violations. Although the DOJ has issued recommendations to correct these violations, the board leadership has ignored them. What is your opinion on the handling of this situation? Ms. Campbell.
And I'm sorry, because I'm going to ask you to read it one more time, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Over the past year, the Department of Justice has been monitoring the Christina School Board and has identified multiple FOIA violations. Although the DOJ has issued recommendations to correct these violations, the board leadership has ignored them. What is your opinion on the handling of this situation?
I think it's inappropriate. I think that we have to respond if there's a concern. If we have a duty to the public, then we have to make sure that we're making it clear where we stand. We can't ignore it. Thank you.
Ms. Troncoso. Sure. Over the past year, the Department of Justice has been monitoring the Christina School Board and has identified multiple FOIA violations. Although the DOJ has issued recommendations to correct these violations, the board leadership has ignored them. What is your opinion on the handling of this situation?
It's not called Freedom of Information Act for nothing. If it's a request, then you abide by it unless there is, with any FOIA request, there's reasons that you can deny the request for credible reasons. Otherwise, it needs to be complied with. The board leadership is not above the law. plain and simple.
What are reasonable standards for public speech, including social media, for school board members? Do you support board actions to censor board members when those standards are deemed to have been violated? Ms. Troncoso.
Really, Kate? Okay, friends, this is a tough one, right? I believe in freedom, First Amendment, like the next person. I do think we have to be aware as board members that our comments and our actions do reflect upon the district.
Sure. What are reasonable standards for public speech, including social media, for school board members? Do you support board actions to censor board members when those standards are deemed to have been violated?
So I don't believe in actually censoring per se. Oliver Wendell Holmes had a belief that the marketplace of ideas, you share your ideas, and only the best filter up to the top, hoping that it's not necessary to censor adult behavior.
Thank you. Ms. Campbell.
So I definitely believe in freedom of speech. But here's the thing. Can you hear me? Here's the thing. We need to be cautious about what we say because the board represents the community and we represent the children. We work for them. And so the community, they put us in that seat. So we need to make sure that we are behaving appropriately in that seat. Thank you.
Have either of you been mentored by existing board members, and if so, by whom? Ms. Campbell.
No.
Ms. Troncoso.
I'm not sure what the term is for mentor, but I've had the great opportunity since I filed the candidacy that I've had long talks with current board members, former board members. I'm always open and willing to hear people's opinions and their experience, but have I been mentored per se? No.
Seeing I'm pulling questions from the audience, and some of them have already been answered. What is your opinion of charter schools? And we'll start with Ms. Troncoso.
You guys are really going to make me go through it tonight, right? My opinion of charter schools. Well, the truth of it is, as much as charter schools, we should not be fighting in the same space for the same money. If the state wants to fund charter schools, that's absolutely fine. Let them fund the charter schools, but not on the backs of the public school students.
And Ms. Campbell.
So I believe that families have a right to choose what school they send their children to. I don't believe that funding should be taken away from public schools and given to charter schools. Thank you.
Where did your children go to school? And we'll start with Ms. Campbell.
So my children went to school in the Brandywine School District. My daughter, she graduated from Concord High School. She went to Tally Middle School. She went to Lancashire. My son attended Lancashire as well. My son currently, for the last 5 years, attended Harvest Christian Academy. And the reason being is because my son was left behind. He was discriminated against. And he was told that he needed an IEP. And 5 years ago, as a parent, I decided he needed smaller class sizes and he needed more attention. So I sent him there. And just so happened, last year, his grades turned around, his behavior turned around, because he had that attention and what he needed. And so now I feel like if it's not broken, why fix it? And so that's why he's still there. But I firmly do believe in public school, and that's why I substituted in the schools. Thank you.
Mr. Nkoso.
So my family and I, we moved here 4 years ago in order for me to attend Widener Delaware Law School. My oldest at the time was a junior, and my youngest was a freshman. I think that had we came to Delaware much earlier in their educational process, we would have started with Christina Public Schools. I live in Wilmington. We all know the dire situation in Wilmington. I needed a place where I knew my kids could walk and get to school. So my oldest graduated from Padua Academy. My younger child started at Odyssey Charter, and it was an abysmal failure for my family. They are now redoing their junior year, which is causing me to donate plasma for tuition, and she is going to Padua as well. I believe in Christina School District. My lack of children in the district does not in any way hinder my ability to stand up for children or for the community.
What is your background related to education and leading a large organization? We'll start with Mr. Nkoso.
Let me think about this for a second. When my oldest started preschool, I was fortunate we lived in Chicago at the time, and it was a co-op. So that was my first real introduction to the magic that teachers perform in the classroom. I've been in the classrooms working with students, with teachers, assisting them as much as I can. I am a former flight attendant. I was one of 25,000 flight attendants, so I guess that doesn't count me as leading a large organization. I did try to lead the theme for sanity, though, because it was a crazy world. What else?
So yes, you address education and
most
leading a large
recently
organization.
here, though, I have had the fortunate opportunity to volunteer with the Delaware legal education and work in the schools helping children craft opening arguments and closing arguments and just basic legal documents.
Okay. And Ms. Campbell, what is your background related to education and leading a large organization?
My background regarding education, my daughter will actually be 26 years old next month, and I've always been active in her school. I've always been part of the PTA. I've always advocated. One year, I actually won the parent report card, and we were fortunate to win a trip to Disney World. For my son, I had to do a little bit more advocating. I lived at Lincolnshire, but also at Lincolnshire, I was part of the PTA, and I was also the treasurer at that time. At my son's current school, I was vice president of the PTO, and I am still a part of that board as well. And I did some advocating there. I worked for Ministry of Caring. I led their homeless diversion program. For a while, I was the only case manager. So I was able to divert many of families from homelessness. I also worked for Healthy Start, which is a maternal health program. And I started out as a case manager, and then I became a case manager supervisor, where that included making sure that case managers were doing their jobs and making sure that families had the necessary resources and support that they needed. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, candidates, this is the final question. Please give your closing statement, including why Christina voters should elect you to the CSD Board of Education. And we will start with Ms. Campbell.
So first, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. It was a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm running for school board because I believe our top priority must be our students. Every decision, every policy should be grounded in what's best for our kids. This is how I approach my work every day, whether it's me being a parent or at one of the schools, making sure that the families have food. I am a community leader who is deeply connected to this community, and I know that real progress happens when we listen to our families, when we listen to our community members, and we support educators. We need to stay focused on the results for our children. I am ready to bring focus, dedication, and collaboration to the Christina School Board. Don't forget to vote on May 13th.
And Ms. Troncoso.
I'm going to take a really quick opportunity to say thank you to my child over there. When she was born, I didn't really have a blueprint for the life that I wanted to build. All I knew is that I just didn't want to let her down. That promise carried me through community college, through law school, through nights when I didn't know how I was going to keep going. It carried me into the courtroom where I fight for people that the world has already given up on. And it's carrying me now into this race and this fight for our kids. I'm not running to protect the way things have always been. I'm running to make sure every child, no matter where they start, has the chance to build a future that they are proud of. The fellow members of the school board deserve someone who shows up ready to work together, not tear each other down. In this community, our community, it deserves to shine. There's a quote by Maya Angelou that has carried me through every battle. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. That is the same resilience in the work, the standing up, the speaking out, and the fighting for every child's chance to succeed. That's what I bring to Christina School Board, and I humbly ask for your vote on May 13th.
Okay, that concludes our question. Thank you to both of you candidates. And Election Day is May 13th. May 13th. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming, everybody. Have some snacks. Stay and talk to the candidates.